welcome to another week of the show. I hope you've all had a great week this week. I today am going to be doing an educational show, and I'm going to be talking about how you can tune into your psychic abilities and your intuition. I was planning on doing some readings today, except my next door neighbour has decided it's a great day to do renovations, and it's a great day to do their gardens. So it's been very noisy all morning, and I didn't want to risk taking on readings and taking on cause of all that noise. So if it does get a bit noisy, that is why. Hopefully they've stopped, but yeah, every couple of minutes I can hear the machinery going off. So safe to just do educational today. So if you're interested in learning how to tune into your psychic abilities, there they go, and learning to tap into your intuition, then this is going to be the show for you. I will also do a collective card pull, and I'm going to start the show with that. All right, just I feel called to do that now. So what I am going to do is I'm going to give the cards a shuffle. We'll see what message comes through for you all today. And if I have time, I'll pull one more card at the end of the show once I have done the psychic development. Now, we actually had a few cards come out, but I'm just going to do the one that, oh, actually, they actually all connect. So I will do a bit of a mini reading here. So the cards and the message that's coming through today is all about connection. So the first card that we had here is spend time with friends, and I know that we have the full moon coming up, and we've got the moon pictured here. We've got, people sitting in a circle connecting, tea, cards and journals. So I feel like the message here that's coming through is to connect with those around you, to sit in ceremony. So if you've been feeling that disconnect, if you've been feeling a bit lonely, this is the sign to go and reconnect. Have a picnic with your close friends or your partner, or, even work colleagues or people who are like-minded around you. Put yourself out there to see if there's a women's circle running even in your area. Some people also run them online as well. But this here is about spending time with friends. So you might just be feeling, you're stuck in the same thing a different day, same routines and same patterns. This here is really calling for you to start reconnecting with those around you, and perhaps even finding new friends as well. If you're struggling with your current friendships, this is your sign to start putting yourself out there and creating new connections and new friendships as well. The next card was watch a movie. So very similar to, spending time with friends and also doing something for yourself. We've got watch a movie here. So I feel like it's about reconnecting with yourself, feeling really run down, feeling like you need a break. And it could just be as simple as having some quiet time, watching a series, watching a movie, watching a documentary, reading a book even, just having time to yourself. It's really hard, especially when you have children, husband, full-time job, hobbies, or whatever it is that you're doing in your day-to-day schedule, even just having children. It is really hard to just have that quiet time and find time for you. But this is really this mini reading today is really calling for you to be reconnecting to you and finding that time, even if it is only a couple of minutes a day, or even if it's 30 seconds, locking yourself in the bathroom. If you're a mum, you know what that's like. Sometimes I just lock myself in the bathroom just to get away for a couple of minutes. And, if that's what you need to do, that's what you have to do, whatever it takes to get by. Now, the last card we had here was connect with crystals. So again, I feel like I'm using the same word today, connection. So this is the overall big message, connecting to yourself, connecting to others around you, and just really figuring out who you are again, what's important to you, and connecting to those around you. But connecting with crystals, coming up to the full moon, getting your crystals out, your cards, and really working with crystals too. So again, we've got sitting outside, surrounded by crystals, nice and peaceful. So finding what crystal you can work with, which is going to help you release emotions, protect your energy. And I always say that the crystal will choose you, much like I feel the cards will choose you as well. So you can go to a metaphysical store, you can even go online and just pick the crystal that is calling you. Whichever crystal that you can't really get away from, I want you to pick that crystal. Now, I do hear coming through a lot smoky quartz, rose quartz, and amethyst. These are three very well known, and if you're into crystals, they're quite popular. I feel like they're some of the most universal crystals. These three are coming through, so you might resonate with getting an amethyst, which really helps you work with your third eye, which we'll be talking about in a moment. And smoky quartz really helps to ground your energy, protect your energy. And the rose quartz really helps with the self-love and relationships and connection. Okay, so you may feel drawn to either one of those crystals, or you might feel drawn to something completely different. But the message here today is connecting to yourself, connecting to friends, having some downtime, figuring out what is it that you want now, okay? And it might literally just be some quiet time, okay? No matter how big or small, it's just about reconnecting and finding yourself again, connecting to your friends and your circles again. So now that I have done that mini collective reading, I hope that has resonated with some of you and given you a bit of clarity or a message that maybe you needed. I am going to talk a little bit about psychic development. Last week, I spoke about how important it is to protect yourself and to ground yourself. So I thought a good follow-on from that is now you know how to protect yourself if you watched that episode. What do we do with that? Now we can protect ourselves. How do I start tuning in to my intuition? How do I start connecting in? How do I know if I have psychic ability? So I'm going to run through some of that today. And I don't have anything written down. I'm going to just be intuitively doing this and just going with whatever comes through. So from the very basic perspective, when you start tuning in, it is always important to protect yourself. So just quickly, for the purpose of this video with me talking about psychic development, you always want to make sure that you have a protective crystal. So that could be a black tourmaline, could be a smoky quartz. You can even Google a protective crystal. And I always am carrying a black tourmaline or a black obsidian with me all the time. Okay, just helps deflect any energy coming toward me. I will also use Archangel Michael as well to just help bring in that extra protection. And the main purpose of this is to just protect your energy from any lower vibrational energy, from any energy that is not yours and is unwanted energy, which can leave you feeling depleted, can leave you feeling a bit closed or blocked off. So with psychic development, or with our psychic senses, the main things people will say to me is, Kaysey, I keep having dreams. Dreams are typically a way that spirit will communicate with us if we are not listening when we are awake. So you might be having vivid dreams. You might be having dreams where, something happens in your dreams, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, or a couple of days later, even months later, your dream happens. And it might not even just be for yourself. It could be for those around you. So this is a good way to know that your clairvoyance is activated. You might also have things happen to you where you're like, I feel like, my friend's going to call me today. And then that specific friend calls you 5 minutes later, or later that day, or within a couple of days. Or you'll be thinking about someone and then you bump into them when you're out of the house. These types of situations typically will mean that you are tuning and tapping into energy that is bigger than yourself, right? So these are very common ways. Or you might see feathers, or you might see butterflies. Okay. These are just ways of your guides or your past loved ones letting you know that they are around. So there are so many different ways in which you can recognize or start recognizing you are connected. But these I have found are really the main things people will say. I keep having dreams, I keep seeing feathers, I keep thinking things and then they happen. I'm having premonitions, so these are kind of like the basic things. And then people say, well, what do I do with that? How do I get started? Now, you might not be feeling any of these things, and that is totally okay. This is a very basic, broad scenario that I'm going with. But I always say to people, the easiest way to start connecting to your intuition and to start opening up your third eye or opening up your senses is to start meditating. Now, a lot of people, I feel like, stray away from meditation and think, I can't do that. I can't quiet my mind. How can I meditate? It doesn't resonate with me. I want you to know that meditation does not have to be sitting down or laying down, listening to music. It doesn't have to be, with your hands like this, meditating. It doesn't have to be like that. Meditation can look different for everyone. So meditation could be reading a book, could be coloring in, could be drawing. For me, sometimes I do align with meditating in the typical way of sitting down and listening to the music. But I love to dance and I love to sing. So typically before I'm doing a one-on-one reading, I will be blaring my music, dancing around to the music, and that's my way of starting to connect to spirit. And this is my way of moving my body and shifting the energy and getting into the flow. And I can feel my channels opening up through this form of meditation. So if you're interested in starting to opening up and becoming more aware, you want to really start focusing on meditating, whichever way this is, means for you. I would suggest not to put too much pressure on it. But if you're really, really wanting to start tapping in, you probably want to aim to try and do it for a couple of minutes a day, even if it's 1 or 2 minutes, and you can work your way up to more. Or you might want to set aside one day where you can set aside half an hour or 10 minutes or 15 minutes where you can dedicate that day to your meditation. Don't overcomplicate it, though, is my biggest piece of advice. Because when we start connecting, people will always look for ways to deny it. Oh, I can't quiet my mind. Well, we're never going to really be able to do that. We have so many thoughts running through our mind per day, 60,000 plus, so many going through our mind. So the point isn't to quiet the mind completely or to silence it. It's just to be relaxed and be in your body and be present. Okay. Once you start doing that, you really want to start focusing on things like how much water you are drinking, because water is the life force. So the more water you have flowing through your body, the more you're going to start feeling connected, the more hydrated you are. Now, I'm only going to be touching on a few little things today due to time. If you want to hear more about this, you can head over to my podcast, The Soul Lounge on Spotify, and I do talk a lot more about this in depth, or you can join my Facebook page, The Soul Lounge. But just to touch on the basics today, you then could even look at what are you putting into your body? What's in your environment? Because when we start to open up and connect, what we're going to find happening is we start to realize that our surroundings may not be so positive. This may mean that our relationships could be blocking us. Our environment where we are working or living is blocking us. And what I mean by that is your surroundings will affect you internally, right? So if you are in a difficult relationship, it's going to be really hard for you to connect to spirit because you're distracted by other things going on in your life. Doesn't mean you can't. I was doing readings and connecting to spirit when I was going through super traumatic times in my life, but it definitely didn't help, and it made it a lot harder for me to connect when I had so much chaos going on around me. So it's not a definite, okay, your life has to be perfect for you to connect. That's not what I'm saying, but it definitely helps. And you will find along your journey that the more you open up to spirit and the more you invite it in and the more healing that you do, the more your world will start to shift and change. And some people may not be along for the ride anymore, but that is okay. And it doesn't always mean that, but it's always good to be prepared that when you start opening up your channels and you start connecting to your truth, because I feel the more spiritual you become, you're just connecting more to your truth, your outer world will start to change. So focusing on meditation, water, your environment, crystals, but also cards. So oracle cards and tarot cards are a great divination tool that you can use to start connecting to your intuition. So I would start off by every single day going to one of your decks of cards or buying a deck of cards if you don't have one, and letting that deck really choose you, whichever one you're feeling most drawn to or you can't get away from. And each morning or each night or when you have a spare minute, sitting down, shuffling the cards and simply asking the cards, you know, what do I need to know right now? You can ask a specific question and see what comes out. I would suggest starting with an angel deck or an oracle deck before tarot. Angel cards and oracle cards are much easier to read. They are a bit more generic, but they sometimes have messages on the front of them and they're just much softer. Whereas a tarot card can take years to study the whole deck to really know all the different meanings, connections to star signs and the suits. Like there's so much to learn in the tarot. So I would always suggest the angel and oracle as a starting point, and then you can always work to the tarot. So you really want to be asking the cards, you know, what is it I need to know today? And I want you to practice, you know, pulling the card from the deck and really just listening and reading. And what are you feeling when you look at the card? Just, there's no rush. I want you to really try and figure out what the card is telling you before you go and read the book. This is how you're going to start strengthening your intuition. This is how you're going to start connecting to your intuition. And, you know, it's great to get a journal because then you can write down the sensations that you're feeling. So, for example, I've just picked the first card on the top of the deck I just used. And it's funny because I said I like to sing and dance to connect. And I'm talking about connection. And the card I pulled was sing. So very, isn't that convenient? So it's telling me to sing. Now, you know, I will look at this and I'm going to tune in. And what am I feeling in my body? What do I feel like this card is telling me? Well, I used to sing as a child, and I feel like this message for me is telling me to go back and have more play and have more fun. You know, what did I used to do as a child that made me happy? So whatever the card means for you, just really like look at the colors. Do you feel drawn to a certain color? You know, do you hear something? Do you see something? You can even close your eyes, hold the card, take your time. It's not a race. There's no rush. And then writing down anything that you hear, anything that you see or feel, and keeping a diary. A psychic diary is an awesome way to really note down everything and have that diary there to go back on. There's something called psychic symbols, right? So if you're clairvoyant and you're seeing the messages, I'll quickly go through the clairs in a moment. But if you're clairvoyant and you're seeing the messages, the flashes, the images, you're going to want to know what they mean, because your guides are going to show you all different pictures and then you've got to figure out what it means. I suggest writing it all down, and then you can start noticing, okay, you know, when they show me a microphone, the microphone means that that person needs to talk about their feelings. Whereas if I see a microphone, it might mean that someone is actually a singer. Everyone's interpretation will be different, and this is where you'll have to kind of figure that out as you go along. So keeping a diary of the psychic symbols and the sensations, because you might not see anything. You might even be following along at home right now, looking at your card and going, I don't feel nothing. That's okay. There's a lot of things you can do. You know, repetition and practice is a huge thing. But, you know, even if you just feel drawn to the color on the card, write down the color and then Google, you know, what does the color blue mean? Because colors connect to different feelings as well. And then that may be what you need to know. If you still don't get anything, then read the book and see what the book says the card means. So if you're not seeing anything, if you don't have dreams, if you're not seeing images, or you're seeing like a movie playing out or little snippets of things in your mind's eye, you might be clairaudient, which is where you can hear things. Your ears might ring. You might feel like someone said your name, but no one said your name. That's a good, clear sign of clairaudience. The high-pitched ringing, and you'll hear voices either inside your head or outside. Okay, and there'll be gentle, soft voices. You know, you might, like I said, hear your name, or you might hear phone, or you might hear call that person, or whatever it might be. There'll be subtle messages. Then we have what we call claircognitions, which is a knowing. So you might not have any explanation on how you know something, you just know it. So you might be the person that, you know, I get a bad, you know, I just know that person is not good. I get a bad feeling about that. People will say, well, why though? I don't know. I just know. Something's just not right. I just know. That is claircognition, where you just have that deep knowing, but you don't have any reason why you know it. Then we have clairsentience, which is a feeling. So clairsentience will be feeling the sensations in your body. For example, if I'm connecting to a past loved one and they have passed from a heart attack, generally I'll feel a tight squeeze in my chest. And that's how I know that they have passed from a heart attack, unless I get told it in another way, but I'll physically can feel it in my body. Or if I'm doing a reading for someone and all of a sudden I get super anxious and I'm feeling really anxious and getting the sensations of anxiety, then that person would be suffering from anxiety. So you feel the physical sensations in your body. So now pay attention to how you feel around certain people too, because you might be feeling great. And then you walk into a room and you sit down, you get a headache and you're like, oh, where did that come from? And the person next to you's got a migraine or a headache. That is clairsentience. And then we have clairempathy as well, which is a big one. So very similar to what I've just described, but in the way of feeling. So if you're an empath, you're going to go to the shop and you are going to just feel so overwhelmed. You're going to need a nap. You're going to feel so tired and drained by the time you get home. You're always going to be feeling like you need a recharge because you're taking on everything around you. So, you know, that is also the sign of clairempathy. So that can also be really apparent when you're watching TV shows or movies, right? If you're anything like me, I'll be sitting there, you know, watching like junk TV, trash TV, and I'm crying because I'm feeling that emotion. You know, I get super emotional when I'm watching shows and movies. So this is all being empathic, but you can also connect through that and connect to people through this. And learning how to protect yourself is also super important with that too, because if you don't, you're going to take on everyone's emotions, everyone's problems. You're not going to know if it's your emotion or their emotion. So it's really, really important that you're learning how to protect yourself in those instances too. Now, there are a lot of different clairs, but they are the main ones which I will just cover for you due to time, and I could be here all day. So they are the main ones. And the meditation and becoming more aware, using your cards, this is the very simple basic steps that you can start taking to start really feeling into and figuring out what clairs are you tuning and tapping into. Where do you start? You know, this is going to be like the real basic for you on where you know how to, on how you can know how to start like really tuning and tapping in. So I hope that that information has helped and provided you with a start. This is the very basic on, you know, where you can start. There's a lot to it, but this is really how you can get things moving and how you can get things going. And keeping that diary is going to be really beneficial for you too. Also, I will put out to you a little activity that I teach my psychic development students when they come to me, is I want you to start practicing using your intuition. So, for example, you could, when your phone rings next time, I don't want you to look at it. I want you to just take a second and just tune into your phone. Think about your phone and think like, who's calling me? And then whatever comes to mind or whatever you feel or see or hear first, like, okay, I have a feeling that it's XYZ. And then check your phone and see if it was the person that you thought it was. Okay. Now you can start writing this down. You can be like, okay, I heard that it was my brother, but when I looked at my phone, it was my mum. Doesn't mean, oh, okay, yep, no, I suck at this. You're learning and you're getting used to it. But also what that could be is when you feel it in your stomach, it means it could be relating to, family or, and this is where we're opening big rabbit holes here, because it's going to be different for everybody, but just for an example, so you kind of know where I'm going with this. And then you can be like, okay, I thought that it was this person, but it wasn't, and I felt it in my stomach. Perhaps that might not even be where my intuition is coming from. And then you'll start to notice a pattern. When you do start getting it right, you'll be like, oh, every time I hear something, it's accurate every time. But when I feel it in my tummy, it's 50-50. It's not always accurate. Actually, it's more wrong than it is right. So I'm really going to start focusing on my hearing now. So these little activities, trying to guess who's on the phone, trying to guess who texts you, or like, when I turn the TV on, what show is going to be on? Or, what's the time? I haven't checked it in ages. I reckon it's, whatever time it is, 12:30 or whatever. I want you to practice these and see how you go. So that is me done for today, but thank you so much for joining me again. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you all again next week for another show.